you'd ever expect. Staples, make more happen.
News Radio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Joe McGranahan.
And our track producer has done it again. Now, Mark Lawrence is on vacation.
I can only see part of the screen, and it says, I got the wrong.
All right, here's
I have the
thing.
wrong OP. The wrong OP.
When Robin Roberts is not doing Good Morning America, they don't necessarily change the open to say who else in George Stephanopoulos.
But you have in your power the capacity to tell people who actually is on the program.
Right, but if the guest hosts weren't arguing with me for the last 5 minutes before the show starts, I'd be able to get that done.
You're over here castigating us for how we're doing the show, and then you blame us that you screw up. All right, I like that. That sounds like a workable, plausible deal, doesn't it to you?
It works. It works the way I worked through radio all my life.
It's
yes,
our
exactly.
fault.
Two Madonnas that I have to work with here.
Anyway, this is On the Mark, brought to you by the Sunbury Motor Company, who probably right now is regretting their decision. A family-owned dealership since 1915, 4th Street in Sunbury, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. You can find out lots more about them at www.sunburymotors.com. They sell Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln cars. They're the premier service provider for all makes of cars and trucks and all sizes of trucks, and they're a master towing service with decades of experience. We have an open day today. That means our toll-free hotline number, brought to you by the Groninger Insurance Company, will be wide open. 1-800-795-9565 is that number. And the Groninger Insurance Agency is located at Front and Duke Streets in Northumberland, open Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5, Friday, 9 to 4:30. Saturday by appointment. Find them on the web at www.groningerinsurance.com. See John, Jim, Paula, and Mel, along with the rest of the staff at Groninger, about making sure your insurance needs are met and your expectations are exceeded. If you choose to email us this morning, you may do so at our email in basket on the mark at WKOK.com. It's brought to you by the nice people at Lenape Solar in Sunbury, 140 South 2nd Street to be exact. You can call them at 570-286-1496. or find them on the web at www.lenapesolar.com. At Lenape Solar, they invite you to harness the power of the sun for a brighter tomorrow. And our webcam is up and running.
Rumming, yes. Well, yes. Here, have some rum.
If Kevin would stay off the rum, it would be doing better. All right, it is up and running. Kevin has put a lot of thought and effort into making this the premier way to view the show as well as listen to it. So we invite you to go to our WKOK.com, look for the On the Mark tab, and then view live. And you can see us in action right here in living color.
I just was noticing our picture there. There are two old bald guys, one of them with a fringe on the back of his head and the other with a fringe on the front of his head.
Over the years, I've come to look like, seriously, Bozo the Clown.
You don't seriously look that way, but kind of literally.
And just a reminder, after the show, if you miss any of the show or if you miss any of the shows in general,
that's true.
You can also find us on the WKOK YouTube channel. Just go to WKOK.com, click on our link to the YouTube channel. You'll be able to see the show archives, video archives, as well as other news videos. And if you subscribe, you'll get an email every time a new video is uploaded.
You know, I didn't subscribe because I don't need any more emails, but I go to that archive quite occasionally. And
quite occasionally?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's an excellent job. Excellent job, Kevin.
All right. Well, now that Kevin's stuck that all in, I can't imagine there are too many people who, having endured the 90 minutes you and I put on for them every day, want to go back and hear it again, but you never know.
You've got a good point there. We have several things we can talk about today, and, you know, on an open day, anything you'd like to call in about, we can try to deal with. But I was looking this morning at the news, and Northumberland County is at it again. Their warden, whose name is Johnson, I met him about 5 years ago. I had a tour of the prison with some folks. And
nice way of saying you were a guest there for several days.
I was a guest there. Well, I was a guest there for probably an hour. But we went through the prison, and Warden Johnson seemed to be a very competent new warden. I have such a surprise to see that now he almost got fired last night.
Well, part of what I read and part of what I heard seems to indicate that the majority commissioners, Mr. Bridey and Mr. Clausey, are upset over the two inmates who committed suicide in the prison.
Would we not all be upset
well,
about
you know,
that?
And I don't know how much of that I could attribute to the warden or to even the staff. Isn't it an institution that was never designed? I mean, how old is that prison? I mean, I can't imagine that it was built with an idea that it might have to keep its eye on prisoners. I mean, there was a day when if a prisoner committed suicide, somebody would have said, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
In the early part of this century. But now we have a different, as you point out quite often, we have a different view of things, and we want prisoners treated humanely.
A little more humanely, of course. There is a rule that prison is not for punishment, it's as punishment. In other words, you shouldn't be beaten in prison. You're there, your freedom is restricted, some of your rights are taken away.
Well, quite a few of them, as a matter of
but
fact.
that is all it should be. It should be otherwise.
Right, but you're missing my point, though. What I'm saying is I don't know how much the facility contributes to the fact that the people who are employed there find it difficult in all instances to do their jobs.
That is probably about right, although I'm sure the facility makes a difference. I have heard from people who have spent a night or two in jail, not just an hour as I did.
These are your friends, right?
My friends. That it is pretty rough. It's pretty uncomfortable. It's drafty, depending on where you are. And you're restricted by the size of the facility and so forth. Now, I don't believe that prisoners go to prison to be comfortable, but they don't go to prison to sweat to death, to be sick, to commit suicide.
Well, I mean, there's tough love like Sheriff Joe Arpaio does out in Colorado, or Wyoming, or where is he?
If he knew about the Constitution, he'd stop doing that stuff, but that's a whole other story.
Okay, Buzz, you're on the mark this morning. Good morning.
Hi, Buzz. How are you?
Hi, guys. I just, as a resident of Northumberland County, and I'm not from here, but, I am here, and I'm paying taxes here, and I hear these stories about everybody and the commissioners and all, and this warden who I know nothing about, but like you, he seemed to me to be a competent guy, even though I've never met him. My question is, how do we expect to hire quality people with the bozos that we have run in the county? I mean, who would want to come work here with the people that they have to be responsible to? Has anybody ever considered that keeps us from getting the best people out there because they don't want to come here and work for this commissioner?
I think that's Buzz, I think that's probably true in a number of instances. For example, I would have to think long and hard if I were a candidate for superintendent of the Midwest School District as to whether or not I wanted to put myself into that position until I understood. I'd have to understand the dynamics, and I'd have to agree that all these people, even though they disagreed, were on the same page with respect to trying to do the right thing for the county or the school district. But how do you tell that?
I would just close with saying that it's time to clean house, and that if we want quality services in this county, then we have to have quality people at the top.
Buzz, there's another thing too, and it's true, I think, with all the people who work in the, and I'm going to put this in parentheses, social work, as prison guards are, as child advocates are, and so forth, they're awfully underpaid. The starting salary does not bring in people who have had, for instance, a background of some education in college and so forth. Nothing wrong with the prison guards. They're doing everything they can, I'm sure, but many times they are not equipped to know how to take care of things.
Well, my only personal experience with the county is that I'm a volunteer court mentor for the Veterans Court, and the people that I'm exposed to there really seem top-notch. So I'm not sure what their responsibilities are to the upper end of the county, but you know, you're talking about pay. I mean, how much do you pay a fireman? How much do you pay a policeman? I mean, can you really pay people enough to put their lives out there?
That's a very good question. It's something I say all the time, and it comes down to the police chief of Sunbury, who ended up shooting a man who was very threatened. The acting police chief shooting a man because he was being threatened, and I feel, I mean, it's terrible for the guy who got shot, no question, and his family. But the police chief has to live with the fact that he had to shoot a guy, the guy may die, and I'm sure the police chief does not find that easy to live with. So, you know, I feel really, how can you pay somebody enough to be able to feel comfortable with that?
Well, back to the original point is that we're not going to draw the very best people that are out there as long as we have the people at the top that we have right now. And when we get that cleaned out, then we'll see how it goes. So thank you very much.
Thank
you, Buzz. I think that's a really good point. It's not easy to step into turbulent water, and that's what we have here.
You know, I think, and having met all three of the county commissioners, Mr. Clausey only by phone, but having met the other two, they seem to me to really care about the county. I mean, all three of them seem to really care. Now, they differ wildly on how they ought to achieve it, and I think there's a certain amount. There was a game, I still refer to this book that I read years ago by Dr. Eric Byrne called Games People Play, and it was written in the 1960s, and one of the games people play is called Now I Got You, You Son of a You-Know-What. And it implies that there are people in the workplace and others who are waiting for you to screw up, waiting for you to make a mistake, and then wham, they pounce on you. And I think we have some of that going here, and I don't know how you break that cycle. I think that when Mr. Clausey and Merle Phillips were working together, they seemed to work on a higher level than they're working at the county now with the three commissioners that we have. I mean, I felt they got along better, they work better. Mr. Schock is a bright guy. I think he really cares. And Mr. Bridie seems to be the same. Why they can't get along and work together? They don't have to agree, but why does the disagreement have to be so personal and so vitriolic?
And why does it have to be so public? Because, after all, if something happens, let's say it happens at the prison, the first thing, and I'm afraid I'd have to accuse Vinnie Clausey of this, but I'm sure the other commissioners do too.
Well, make sure you label your opinions as yours.
My
opinion.
Last time
we did this program, I wound up being tagged with Mark's opinion, so I'd rather have my own expressed if you don't mind.
Okay, my opinion is absolutely.
And Mitchell's opinion.
My opinion is that instead of going to the person who has caused the problem, let's say going to Warden Johnson, and saying, you know, we've got to do something, we've got to change this, and Warden Johnson says we'll work on it, and let's get the committee together. Vinnie Clausey is apt to, and I'm not going to relieve the other commissioners of this either, come out to the newspaper or the radio station and start saying this person's incompetent, they don't know what they're doing. The first thing you do is talk to the person, not yell to the media, in my estimation. In Shamokin Dam, I'm sure you have arguments in city council. I don't hear Joe McGranahan coming out to the radio station and saying the people I work with are incompetent fools. You don't do that. You might tell them that in the meeting.
No, we don't even tell them that in the meeting.
No, I mean, you're too nice for that.
No, we have a good group there. I mean, I think, like Northumberland County, our council cares very much about the community, and they're all working very hard to make it the best community it can possibly be. I give them a lot of credit for that. We've had some discussions or dissension from time to time, but it's always on a high level, and it's never personal.
How do you take care of that? As mayor of Shamokin Dam, you're not a voting guy, right?
No, the council presidents, now Dave Herbert and before him Don Musser, have done a very good job in, presiding over the meetings, making sure everybody gets a chance to have their say. Presiding fairly and openly, and I think that's the key. The presiding officer, and in the case of a borough, it's the council president, sets the tone for the rest of the group. And if they treat everybody with respect and courtesy and make sure that everybody gets heard, then you have a very useful and productive exchange of ideas and philosophies. But where one person who is presiding, for some reason, takes it upon him or herself to use that power to the nth degree, perhaps to belittle or to demean the ideas of some other person, then you have an entirely different situation.
Well, right here in a very public atmosphere, you and I, with our 3 or 4 people that watch us and a few million who could,
thousands who listen.
And thousands who listen. We have a tremendous difference of opinion sometimes.
Oh, yes.
And we both are friends. If our boats meet in the river, we don't get out our cannons. We pull up together, and I'd say, Joe, you want a beer?
I put a ram on the front of mine in case I run into you.
That's the reason you don't see me very often. No, but we get along even though we disagree. Is there a lesson that maybe a commissioner's group like Northumberland County, some of the boroughs around here having so much trouble with arguments, is there a lesson that can be learned from the fact that you and I can disagree like crazy, but what we have to do is figure out how do we feed the poor, or whatever it is. You think we should, I think we should. We have two different ways. We've got two different ways of getting there. We got to put those paths together, because nothing gets accomplished if all we do is yell.
But I agree with you, but sometimes the paths may be pointed toward the same general end, but they go so far apart that, one person's going to take 6 years to get there, the other 5. So it's not like there's always a clear-cut direct line between A and B. In this case, I look at the people involved, and I think that it has gone so far now. As I recall, Mark and I discussed this one day, and someone volunteered, forget the gentleman's name, I believe he's passed away, who put together that mediation group in Snyder County.
Yes.
And he offered to mediate for the
Al
county
Sobel,
commissioners, right? And they declined the offer. I don't know that even mediation would help now, but someone has to be big enough to say, I'm done with this game. I'm not going to go down this route anymore, no matter how many times they attack me, no matter how many times they do this or that. I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability. I'm going to be as fair as I can be, and I'm going to be as decent as I can be, while at the same time sticking up for my opinions. Now, I don't know how you do that now, because it's so far down the line. It's like this morning, or yesterday, the story in the paper was that Mr. Schock said that nobody wanted to hear Mr. Clausey, and so they didn't invite him to this meeting. This morning, the president judge is in the paper saying, well, no one told us he wasn't invited. So, I mean, you have...
That's... I often have said this, and to me, it sounds amusing, but it's not amusing at all. These people are kids in kindergarten. Kids in kindergarten play better together than our commissioners in Northumberland County.
Well, Northumberland County politics has always been a body contact sport. As long as I've been in this county, and our late leader here, Roger Hatton Sr., used to tell me stories of how it was back in the day of the Henry Lark days. And,
I was here during those Henry Lark days, and yeah, Northumberland County has always been colorful. I remember one time there was a survey in Pennsylvania. I have no idea who did it or its validity, but Northumberland County was second only. Oh, this was many years ago, so county commissioners don't take this personally, because all the people that were in there are now passed away. With the most corrupt county this side of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. And that was I thought, boy, that's colorful.
Well,
not good, but colorful.
The question is, do the voters of Northumberland County really care? If the taxes don't go up, and if Mr. Clausey and Mr. Bridey succeed in managing to keep the costs of the county under control despite the lawsuits and other setbacks they've had, and the taxes don't go up and the services continue to be provided, do the people really care that they don't get along? Does it matter?
Sometimes I think people look at it as professional wrestling, so no, it doesn't really matter. But I think if the commissioners are truly saving money along the way, and I think they are, and they're spending it on lawsuits because they say things without thinking beforehand, we're not saving money. Well, we're looking silly.
We invite your comments on this topic or any other. 1-800-795-9565. That's our toll-free hotline number, brought to you by the Gronier Insurance Agency. Or email us at onthemark@wkok.com, our Lenape Solar email-in basket. Or just enjoy the program, brought to you by the very nice people at Sunbury Motor Company. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, got to go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with the inventory inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
Here it is Thursday, and baseball isn't playing again tonight. That's because that's what they negotiated with the union. Well, baseball needs to correct a couple things, subtle things, but we'll talk about that today. 3 to 5 News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Welcome back to On the Mark. I'm Joe McGranahan along with Dan Mitchell. We've been discussing the latest dust-up, if you will, in Northumberland County over the prison. You know, it is, I think that's a beautiful old building. And when I lived in Chambersburg, I was part of the group that worked to preserve the old Franklin County Jail and turned it into a very great tourist attraction. It became a very important, still is, a very important part of downtown Chambersburg. And I think the old jail has the potential to be something like that for Sunbury, a cultural center.
It's right downtown, for one thing.
But I don't think anymore that whether Warden Johnson is paid $60,000, which it says the paper is, or $120,000, I think there's a limited amount of things he can do with the facilities he has. And as you point out, the prison guard jobs are not the highest paid, you know, so I don't know that you get, I don't want to say the best people. You probably do get very good people.
Very good people.
Motivated people.
But training is important.
But they have to feel like there's, the point I was leading to is that no matter what their starting salary, they have to feel like there's a chance for advancement.
Yes.
That if they do quality work and if they do their jobs well, that something good will happen to them. I think that the county commissioners, in my opinion, have been quick to assess blame, but not so quick to hand out bouquets.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sometimes the bouquets go to people who are kind of friends of the commissioners and not to somebody who actually has done a good job. Although I do see occasionally that this person or that person in a row office job has done a marvelous job.
Well, there was a story in the paper about a gentleman over the weekend who attempted, I think the headline said, and I think we had it on the air here too, was that another attempted suicide at the Northumberland County Prison. Well, apparently the guards there and the staff did what they needed to do, and they caught it. But, I mean, if I want to kill myself, it's going to be awfully hard for you to stop me unless you have someone sitting with me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Which apparently is kind of the rule, although it's cut out into 15 minutes and 30 minutes.
Stop and think about it. Suppose your job was to sit at a monitor, at a desk, with a bank of monitors in front of you. Each one was a picture of the prisoner in his cell. You know, after a while, don't you think you might nod off or, you know, get tired?
You better not.
No, but I mean, you're looking at them and nothing changes, nothing happens, and so your attention over a period of time diminishes. That's just human nature. I don't think there's anything bad about it. I don't think there's anything you can even do about it.
Well, one thing you can do about it is make sure you don't leave somebody on that monitor longer than attention span.
Yeah, for example, how long is it that the guards work at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier? And I think isn't it a 2-hour shift or a 1 hour or something like that, where they change every
I
so
suspect,
often.
yeah.
So, I mean, I think that would be key, rotating people in and out of there and making sure that they had fresh eyes and that they were looking. But I don't even think that there's video cameras in the cells.
I don't know how they watch the prisoners. Maybe somebody who has been watched or has been watching them is listening and will give us a call.
Come back every 15 minutes or something like that. You know, I know you've come by. I have 15 minutes now to do whatever it is I want to do.
But what can you do if all you have now apparently a bed sheet and non-restrictive clothing, no belts, no nothing like that? It's going to be hard in a 15-minute period of time to figure out a way to loop all of that into a rope and use it to hang yourself. I would say it almost looks as though the watching was not done and should have been.
Well,
but I don't know that.
I don't know that either.
That's not an accusation. That's
I certainly wouldn't want
to
accuse anybody of that. I just think it's difficult. I think that the limiting factor here is the facility. The fact that the building is old and is not designed for today's concerns with respect to housing prisoners.
Okay, little government guy. How do we take care of that? Because we keep throwing people in jail for nonviolent crimes. Therefore, we have to, if we build a prison, it's got to be huge. It's got to be expensive.
This latest flap, if you recall, was over the fact that the warden supposedly isn't processing paroles fast enough.
And that doesn't sound like it has anything to do with the physical prison.
Well, and I don't know what equipment he's provided, computers or whatever, how good they are.
Good point. So, he might have a pencil and or
a notepad,
or even a piece of clay and a chisel.
But part of the county commissioner's job and part of any municipality's job is to create funds and reserve accounts for anticipated needs. I mean, that's their job. That's part of good management. We have, in our community, we have funds for a purchase of a new fire truck, funds for the purchase of a new police cruiser. We don't pay it all out at once. We put in a little bit every year out of the budget. So we don't, now they're at the position they have no money that I know of to build a new prison without floating a bond issue, which costs a lot of money. They could have put some money back. Maybe they had to increase the taxes 1 mil or 2 mils one time, and that money was strictly earmarked for future needs. That's not being screwing the taxpayer. That's being a responsible.
Now, as a liberal, I say that is being responsible. That's how you run your household.
I don't think that's a liberal or conservative thing. That's a common sense thing. That's how you plan for the future.
A lot of conservatives appear not to have the common sense to realize you do have to.
Many of those liberals don't either.
You do have to raise the taxes occasionally. Hopefully a small amount. In your household, there are times that you have a furnace go out, and you've got to figure out how to pay for it. If you have put your money away beforehand, it's a lot easier.
I agree with you, but I'm not talking about raising the taxes generally just because you haven't managed carefully. I'm talking about a long-term philosophy of how you maintain enough money to provide the services that people expect.
See, I see generally that is the reason we raise taxes. I do not see the government waste. Oh, that's right. I don't listen to Fox News, who yesterday was blaming Obama for hurricanes. I'm making that up.
Yeah, no, that was on Al Jazeera.
Have you watched Al Jazeera?
I have. Al's a good guy.
Yes, Al's a real good guy. Actually, most of the journalists are folks who worked at various networks.
There you go. I say something to you and you wander off in the other direction.
No, I just wondered if you did watch it, because it is...
And I'm not planning to either.
It is a better point of view, but no, different point of view than the other 3 cable news networks.
We're going to take a break now, and I will let that preposterous statement stand until we return to On the Mark at WKOK Radio in Sunbury, Pennsylvania. Open phones. Give us a call, 1-800-795-9565. Email us at onthemark@WKOK.com. This is WKOK Radio, Sunbury, Pennsylvania.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. 9 days of Hamas rocket and mortar attacks and Israeli airstrikes have left well over 200 Palestinians and 1 Israeli dead. But there's new hope for an end to the cross-border hostilities. CBS's Robert Berger has the latest from Jerusalem.
Israeli negotiators in Cairo have accepted an Egyptian ceasefire proposal and are bringing it to Jerusalem for approval. Hamas has not responded to the deal, which calls for a truce at 6 a.m. local time tomorrow. The sides observed a 5-hour humanitarian truce today, but a Palestinian rocket slammed into Israel just as it expired.
Gaza Strip Palestinians used the brief respite to stock up on food and go to the bank for the first time in days. In this country, the government is reporting a more than 9% drop in home building last month. New homes went up at the slowest rate since last fall. 302,000 workers filed new claims for unemployment insurance benefits last week. Microsoft will do away with as many as 18,000 jobs as it integrates the Nokia cell phone business it acquired in April. A small-scale war erupted on the streets and freeways of Stockton, California, when bank bandits took 3 women hostage and shot it out with the police. 2 suspects and 1 hostage were killed.
14 police cruisers were struck by gunfire, and there were civilians' cars that were struck by gunfire. People's homes were hit by gunfire, and yet nobody else outside of the pursuit was injured.
KOVR-TV's Nick James. Does gene therapy have the potential to mend a broken heart? Live to CBS News correspondent Heather Bosch.
Frank, scientists say they're on the verge of using it to make an all-natural pacemaker. Researchers at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles use gene therapy on pigs to turn a tiny section of their regular heart muscle cells into a type of cell that emits an electrical impulse. It sped up their heartbeats much like an electrical pacemaker would do. Pig hearts are similar to humans. Researchers hope to begin trials in people within 3 years.
Evacuation orders have been issued for close to 900 families living downwind from a fast-moving wildfire in central Washington state. KIRO-TV's Chris Legeris tells us the smoke is visible in Seattle more than 100 miles away.
It's billowing at times up to 25,000 feet into the sky. Trees are burning here so fast that the 500-acre fire quadrupled in size to more than 2,000 acres.
A one-of-a-kind Texas blues man has died. Singer and guitarist Johnny Winter was found dead in a Swiss hotel room. He was 70. There's no word on the cause of his death.
Johnny Winter was an explosive blues guitarist and a very dramatic one. I mean, he had a dramatic look. He was albino, tall, slender.
Rolling Stone music critic Anthony DeCurtis. S&P futures are down 7 points. This is CBS News.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, how did I gain so much weight? Before I hit 40, I enjoyed food and still liked the way I looked. Now it seems like every bite I eat goes straight to my hips and thighs. I hate it.
If you're a woman over 40 and you're having trouble losing extra weight, please call the Amberen hotline now at 800-264-9275. After 40, the female body changes, so one-size-fits-all solutions may no longer work for you. At Amberen, we specialize in breakthrough solutions specifically tailored to women over 40, including hormonal balance, relief from menopausal symptoms like hot flashes, and effective weight loss. Hundreds of thousands of women have tried Amberen, and right now, through this special radio offer, you can try a 100% risk-free trial. Just call 800-264-9275 now. So if you're a woman over 40 and you're tired of looking in the mirror and not liking what you see, give us a call today. Hurry, this limited-time 100% risk-free offer won't last forever. Call 800-264-9275. That's 800-264-9275.
One of the world's best-known news organizations is trimming its sails. We get the story from CBS's Larry Miller in London.
The budget-crunched BBC is axing nearly 10% of its news jobs. 415 posts are going from domestic news to world service to arts reporting.
Good afternoon and welcome to BBC News. Senior Israeli officials...
The cuts will save $82 million a year. The non-commercial BBC is funded through a license paid by every household with a TV. That fee was frozen 4 years ago. Announcing the cuts, the BBC's news director warns the future will be a testing time of uncertainty and change. Larry Miller, CBS News, London.
A European Union law that prohibits job discrimination against the disabled may apply to the extremely obese. That's the non-binding opinion of an advisor to Europe's top court in the case of a Danish childminder who claims he was fired for being overweight. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
Time. It's best found on the weekends and lost in the garage, under the hood, cranking on something. AdvanceAutoParts.com lets you get back to the garage with more time to do what you love. Just buy online and pick up in store 30 minutes later. Plus, order 4 NGK Iridium spark plugs and we'll give you a $10 advance gift card by mail. Advance Auto Parts. Let's get you back to the garage.
Mail-in rebate, void where prohibited. See AdvanceAutoParts.com for details.
This is Charles Osgood. What is customer service? Well, for some, it's a warm greeting or a smile or perhaps even knowing your name. But for the independent agents representing auto owners insurance, it's about more than that. It's getting to know you and your needs so that you can get the proper coverage. Really, it's better than customer service. It's customer care. Go to AutoOwners.com to locate an independent agent near you. Auto Owners Insurance. The no problem people.
News Radio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Joe McGranahan and Than Mitchell.
Welcome back to On the Mark, brought to you by the Sunbury Motor Company, a family-owned dealership since 1915, 4th Street in Sunbury, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Discover them on the web at www.sunburymotors.com. We have an open day. We invite your calls on any topic. Our toll-free hotline number, 1-800-795-9565. It's brought to you by the Groninger Insurance Agency, Front and Duke Streets in Northumberland. Or email us at onthemark@wkok.com. Our email in basket is brought to you by the nice people at Lenape Solar in Sunbury. We'll take a quick look at some headlines before we launch back into the program. A telephone pole was sheared during an accident this morning in Northumberland County. The two-vehicle accident happened just before 7 a.m. in the 3600 block of Route 147 in Mahanoy Township. Northumberland County 911 tells us injuries were reported, but so far no one has been transferred to a hospital. Emergency crews remain on the scene as caution is advised in that area. The Penn Valley Airport near Selinsgrove will receive a grant of more than $280,000 to design a terminal apron where aircraft are parked and fueled. The airport is among 35 in the state, receiving a total of $18 million to improve safety and operations. Funding is provided by state and federal agencies for the grants. Governor Tom Corbett said, quote, "When we expand a runway or make it safer to land at an airport, we ensure that they can meet business and community demands and continue supporting jobs." The governor says public use airports support more than 300 jobs in Pennsylvania. And a Watsontown man has died from injuries he sustained in a motorcycle crash on July 5th. 37-year-old Chad Bowersox was pronounced dead at Geisinger Medical Center on Tuesday. Bowersox was driving his motorcycle on Muncie Exchange Road in Muncie when he lost control. He was thrown from the bike and lying in the middle of the road when he was run over by an SUV. He was taken to Geisinger by ambulance and died on Tuesday. The driver of the SUV, a 17-year-old from Williamsport, was not injured. And we're back in the program, and we have a caller. And we'll start with Ron. Good morning, Ron. You're on the mark.
Okay. Well, the reason I called is we're on our way to breakfast.
That's a good reason to call.
We'll give them a plug. But anyways, we're members of the Friends of the Shikellamy State Park, and we're having a concert this evening on the Overlook, and that starts at 6 o'clock and runs till 8:30. And PA Crude is the band, and the winery is Farrell Winery.
I'm sorry, we can't give out the commercial plugs on. You know, you can plug the event, but the commercial plugs we have to hold up on.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
So you have an event tonight, and what time is it again?
At 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Okay.
8:30 up on the Overlook.
Okay. And everybody's invited to attend, right? Is there an admission charge?
Yeah. No charge. Bring your lawn chairs, and for 2.5 hours of entertainment, and we're having food vendors.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thanks
Ron.
A lot, Ron. Appreciate your call.
And if you've never been up there, Joe, it is a beautiful,
I've been up there.
Beautiful amphitheater
and it's
that
nice
they have set up.
It's nice that they do this. It's good.
Well, they took a park that had a bad reputation and turned it into a really family-oriented park.
Okay. Let's see here.
By the way, WKOK is a sponsor of that event.
Yeah. Okay.
So he could have mentioned one sponsor, and that would be us.
Okay, that would have been all right.
But it's tonight at 6, and it is amazing.
How long is a good amount of time for an employee to spend in the bathroom during the course of a day, Than, if you had to guess?
Oh, I'd say 2 or 3 hours.
2 or 3 hours out of your workday.
No, I would think that should be determined by nature's needs.
I see. Well, one Chicago-based company believes 6 minutes a day, along with their regularly scheduled breaks, is enough, prompting a local union to file a complaint. Water Saver Faucet Company, ironically, is telling its employees that more than 30 minutes worth of bathroom breaks a week is excessive, prompting 19 employees to file a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board. The company installed a bathroom tracking system earlier this year, requiring employees to swipe their ID cards to gain entry. Since then, union members say the company has disciplined employees for taking too many breaks. The company, however, says the current union contract, which calls for a 7.5-hour workday, including a 10-minute morning break, a 30-minute lunch break, a 15-minute afternoon break, and a 5-minute cleanup period before the shift ends provides opportunities for the employees to use the facilities if they need them. The company is also offering gift cards to employees who don't use the bathroom during the workday.
I don't want to see what happens.
No, I was
going
to say.
Try and get that gift card. I didn't use the bathroom all day today. Yeah, I can tell.
Now clean up your area before you go home. As an employer, we are hip to the ways employees try to make it look like they're trying to be productive, but they ain't being productive, said criminal defense attorney Jonathan Spilbore. He said if they had to institute the 6-minute rule, it's because of lack of productivity, and there's nothing illegal about it. Defense attorney Arthur Idala says the policy of using gift cards for those who don't use the bathroom is an innovative way of using merit to increase worker productivity.
That's one I'm not sure I should, if I may say, hold over a person's head. Because I'm not sure that everybody can actually perform on command.
Listen, as one person, I don't know if Than might fall in this category or not, but as one person that worked in a factory and in the manufacturing industry, I could tell you one thing. The 15-minute break, if you're expected to go to the bathroom in that 15-minute break, you have one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and if everybody's trying to go to the bathroom in that 15-minute break, that's not a 15-minute break anymore. That's a 20-minute wait in line.
Yeah, that is very true.
Well, I'd say it would certainly be dependent upon how many facilities they had available to you.
Well, like I said, even with 5 facilities in the factory I worked in, of probably about 150 to 200, it still wasn't enough.
But I like the idea. I find it somewhat, actually, I don't like it. I find it somewhat offensive that the employee has to swipe their ID card to use the bathroom. We know you don't qualify for one of those gift cards. We have some callers. Dave, you're on the mark from Sunbury.
Dave. How are you this morning?
Good. Those breaks, can you imagine? There's another way that you lose your freedom. Isn't that what we're losing? And then Than, he likes the constitutional rights. He didn't defend that. But the reason why I called, I want to ask Than, what would you do if you had a prisoner there that you don't know if he's going to commit suicide, and say you have now 3 of those people in there that say, I'm going to commit suicide. What do? You put men in each one of those that look on those people?
Well, you do that, or you put a camera in so you can see the cell. I have a feeling that they have a person who walks back and forth, an actual guard. I'm not sure how they do it, but those are a couple of the ways I would try to do it.
Well, no, the psychiatrists on these different programs say if they want to commit suicide, there's no way you're going to stop them. They'll find some way with a scratching of a spring on their wrist, or they'll tie. There's no way you can stop them. If they have that will, you can't stop them.
I think the prison and many other places have an obligation to try to stop them, and I think you're right, Dave.
Yeah, but you can't hire a man for each one of those that say, I'm going to commit suicide.
I don't think you have to hire a guy or a woman for each one, but I do think you have to observe and be careful.
Well, I think you guys are talking at cross purposes here. I think that if someone indicates they might be a threat to commit suicide, they certainly get a higher level of attention than those who just are put in there. It's my understanding these two, the 2 that did it, were not on suicide watch. Am I wrong on that, Dave?
Yeah, I think you are wrong.
They were on suicide watch?
Dave?
No, they weren't.
Oh, they weren't. Okay.
One was high on drugs than when they put him in there. So I'm saying that was indication. I mean, the first one was, he was on so many charges. He had a list of charges that runs the length of your arm. So I'm saying to myself, how are you going to watch each individual for that? I mean, how much staff can you pay, and how much are the taxpayer willing to pay? I'm not willing to pay you to babysit somebody.
You do that every day because people in prison.
No, I don't.
You pay taxes and people are in prison.
Yeah, but I'm not going to pay more taxes just so Than Mitchell can have a man there watching these suicide dummies.
Okay, Dave.
All right, well, Dave, thanks for your comments. I understand where you're coming from, and I think I also understand where Than's coming from. But Kimberly, good morning. You're on the mark.
Hi, Kimberly.
Hello. Oh, wait, so help if I push the button. Good
no,
morning,
hi, Kimberly.
Good morning.
Sorry about that.
We have an amateur over here on the other side pushing
I pressed
button.
next, but it didn't switch.
Okay.
Good morning.
Well, you're without, excuse me, Mr. Lawrence this morning, so.
Yeah, we're lost. I'll tell you. What's on your mind, Kimberly?
The prison, of course.
Okay.
I happen to know a thing or two about the prison.
I think you do.
As former chief clerk and county solicitor, I was co-counsel in settling a class action lawsuit back in 2010. I believe that was the year we actually settled it. It went on for some time. And commissioners worked very hard and paid about $80,000 just to have a procedural manual that would be posted, handed out, and supposedly given to every employee in that facility and be trained thereon, specifically with suicide. As you know, I'm a criminal defense attorney, and ever since I left the commissioner's office, I've been very active and very busy, and I have a lot of clients in that facility. I go there at least biweekly. And what I can tell you is both from what I observe and the clients that I actually have that are suing the prison, and Ms. Lewis, the widow of one of these suicide victims being one of them, is that while in the first 2 years, Northumberland County Prison was in compliance with the settlement agreement, I can tell you it's been slipping at a fast rate for the last year. There are numerous problems in that prison. And what I'm going to tell you is, both from interviewing people that come in here, is that they're on 3 levels, the problems. And aside from the facility, okay, you have problems between employees and employees, okay, anything from assault to attempted rape, those types of things. You have problems between problems between employees and inmates. I have one case where a young lady who was an inmate was strangled by an employee. And then you have problems where not following or not being trained on procedures is causing incidences like these suicides to occur. I heard right before you accepted my phone call, I heard someone speculate about, do they have a suicide procedure? Do they not? Did they follow it? Did they not? Was he on watch? I will tell you that I help write that. I know what it is, and I know that they're not following it to a T. And in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, you can speculate about how well or not that the employees are paid. The simple fact is this: the warden is the administrator of that facility. If there are problems in that facility, like the 3 that I suggested, or the administrative ones where we're not processing people and our tax dollars are paying to keep people in there long after a judge has said that they can leave, it starts at the top. It starts at the top. What I will tell you is, and I've heard comments about, if somebody wants to commit suicide, they're going to do it anyway. The procedure that we have, I actually walked through and pretended that I was an inmate when I was an employee and had them instruct me. We had the warden from, I think it was Warden Rose, sent a staff member down from the Dauphin County Prison to help us write this procedure for suicide in Northumberland County Prison. And then I wanted to know firsthand how it was supposed to be. So I subjected myself to coming through as an inmate that would be on suicide watch. And I can tell you, when you're on suicide watch, the commissioner spent a lot of money to have video cameras. The video is supposed to be constant, number one. Mm-hmm. There is a special bed. There's a suicide bed that is pretty indestructible, and it does not include any sheets. There's no sheeting for someone that is on suicide watch. And then finally, there's a smock, and the inmates call it a turtle smock, and that's its nickname. But there's a smock that they wear that is their blanket, if you will, and it also keeps them immobilized. So it doesn't take any additional staff to follow those procedures. It takes adherence to those procedures, all right? And so what you're going to find is that when someone hangs themselves with a bed sheet, I mean, it's just a point of fact. They weren't following the procedures. Okay? One more comment. I heard earlier discussing, well, you know, can't we all come to the table if there's problems in the prison? Can't we all sort of get along and put our differences aside and address the problems? That is very difficult when you have someone at the top saying, there aren't any problems.
And
okay?
At the top, you mean the warden. By the top,
Correct.
you mean the warden,
Correct.
not the commissioners. Okay.
Correct.
But this is very interesting, and so it's video cameras and special beds in rooms to save people from suicide.
Right, but where these people...
And a turtle smock, and I'll tell you another point, 15-minute checks, and then they can drop down to 30-minute physical checks. And I will tell you, and, you know, this is what I've observed, and this is what I have heard on good record from other employees. Employees that are supposed to be doing those physical checks, they're tapping inmates to do them for them, okay? Because they don't want to, you know, give up 15 minutes on their lunch, or they don't want to walk to the other end of the wing, or they're just pure lazy, whatever it is, they're not being held accountable. You have employees tapping inmates to do their job. Okay, but the simple fact is this man hung himself with a bed sheet that he should not have had if the procedure and protocols were being followed.
But was he on suicide watch? Was he in that room?
My understanding is that he was on the 10-day hold, the isolation hold that everyone goes through, particularly if you come in and you're on drugs and you're withdrawing from drugs. They isolate you and they check on you every 30 minutes. That is very different from what I'm talking about. That's a different procedure, all right? They also have access to psychiatrists. We call them the teledocs because it's via like a Skype type of software program. And someone that comes in that's suicidal, which I think you're going to find this gentleman came from a hospital where he was told perhaps he should go to BB2. He's suicidal, should immediately have a phone in to that teledoc. They should determine whether he should be on suicide watch. And then the procedures that I just told you should be strictly adhered to. Now, can you stop everyone that wants to kill themselves if they find some other way, or if they disguise the fact that they're suicidal and do it some other way with their own bed sheet? That's not the problem we're discussing this morning. The problem we're discussing this morning is someone that died by hanging himself with a bed sheet that he shouldn't have had. Okay? So if he was on it, that I can tell you right now, because I helped write that procedure, if someone was on it, they weren't following it.
Well, that certainly sounds like that has to come from the top. And you're saying the warden then, in your judgment, hasn't made sure that the staff is following the guidelines that you and others have set forth for them.
Absolutely, and I'm telling you, I like the warden. The warden was sitting right by my side when we settled that in Harrisburg, when we settled that class action lawsuit, okay? He knows what I'm telling you. I like the man, but what I'm saying is in the last year and a half, there has been a noticeable decline. And I bet if someone does the research, you can track the decline downward and the lawsuits upward. Somebody has to take responsibility. It isn't the commissioner's responsibility on a day-to-day basis. They select somebody that they think can administrate that building. The warden is an administrator of that facility, okay? And then the commander's next in line to play out that procedure, to play out that administration and make sure that it is strictly adhered to. And what you're going to find, if you would pull, I would bet, if you would pull 25 employees in there and give them sort of a simple written test, multiple choice, if you will, about the policies and procedures, more than half would fail.
So, Kimberly, you would probably say that no matter how much you like Warden Johnson, that perhaps we need a different warden?
I would say this. The man has been sort of on notice as the decline is happening and the lawsuits have been going upwards, that there's problems in the prison. And I don't have a problem with somebody saying, I'm having problems in the prison. Come to prison board, and if you need more staff, at least be on record for saying it if that's your problem. Or I need additional training for my men, so I need more money. Be on record for saying it. But don't complain about it and let the decline continue and the lawsuits rise, and then on record to the paper say there's nothing wrong here. We're doing everything correct.
Kimberly,
that just can't be so.
Kimberly Best, defense attorney, and someone who was in the news a few years ago surrounding the county commissioners and the prison. Thank you very much for your call.
And just one plug, I am running for county commissioner.
Okay, we're going to need you in here later on.
No conflict there.
Thank you.
Thanks
a lot.
Okay, thank you, Kimberly. We appreciate your call. Certainly someone who has looked at it close hand and up very close and personal. So
and it's always good to hear from someone who really has been there. Now, remember, she's a defense attorney, and we've got to take that into consideration.
Well, at the time she was talking about, though, she was the chief county clerk. Which
That's
puts
true.
It entirely different.
That is true.
Maybe at cross purposes now, but not then. We'll take a look at the look. Well, let's take a look.
Yeah, the webcam.
Look at the webcam. We're looking good here. We invite you to give us a call if you have a comment
on. No, we're not looking good. We look like us.
We have a comment on Kimberly's call. Give us a call at 1-800-795-9565, or we can discuss the bathroom breaks we kind of started on at the top of the hour. We'll be back in a minute.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, got to go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
This is Tanya Diddy. If you've been wondering how you can save money and the environment for the future, then all you have to do is look to the sun. Let Lenape Solar enlighten you. Lenape Solar installs residential and commercial solar systems, each custom designed to meet your individual needs. And we're committed to buy American products. Making an investment in a solar system today is much more affordable than it was 2 to 3 years ago. The payback is much quicker. You can trust the experts at Lenape Solar to help enlighten you to a brighter tomorrow, because we're committed to you and to our community. Call us at 286-1496 and start saving today.
Here's something to think about. How do you know if your insurance is the right price? Have you ever had your insurance reviewed? Do you remember when it was reviewed? And are you getting all the discounts you deserve? Let Groninger Insurance Agency give you a free, no-obligation second opinion on your auto, home, or business insurance. Give the Groninger Insurance Agency a call today at 570-473-8107. They're proud to represent the Erie Insurance Group. It's true, if you're not insured by Groninger Insurance, you're probably paying too much.
It's time to think about how to promote your business, to brand your business as a quality establishment customers trust. How do you set yourself apart from the crowd?
Hi, this is Erica Shames, publisher of Susquehanna Life magazine. 20 years ago, I started the magazine to educate people about why life here is so unique and to create a high-quality advertising venue for your business or organization. The old adage, you are the company you keep, holds true. When you think about where to advertise, think Susquehanna Life magazine, and here's why. Your ad in Susquehanna Life is seen by more than 45,000 people regionally. Our reader surveys tell us 77% of those readers buy from our advertisers. Most people keep their copies of Susquehanna Life indefinitely. Bottom line, it makes sense to advertise in an upscale magazine with the experience and integrity to safeguard and build your brand. Advertise in Susquehanna Life magazine. Call 1-800-232-1670 for more information.
Welcome back to On the Mark. I'm Joe McGranahan along with Sam Mitchell. We have been discussing two issues. The primary one, the issue of the Northumberland County Prison.
That was an interesting phone call.
Very interesting.
Because Kimberly Best, who is very much into the prison system by her job as a defense attorney. She's in there a lot. She sees stuff that most of us can't see. I do couch that in the fact, though. Don't forget she's a defense attorney. The prosecuting attorney might look at it differently.
Well, I think the argument that they're not following the procedures that were set up is something that should be fairly easy to determine.
But why would that be that they don't follow the procedures? Is that the guards are not taught? They don't know, even though they've been taught? They don't care? Or is the warden not really taking care of his business?
Well, I mean, the warden, I think, would be responsible for making sure that his subordinates actually carry the water, wouldn't you think? I mean, the warden can't be every place in the prison all day long.
No, very true. He can't be in the prison all day long, and he does have to hire competent people. And by the way, guards, I'm not in any way saying you're incompetent, because I don't know. I don't know whose fault this is, but I do think it's something that we can help. And what Kimberly told us about the watch cell for suicide, you shouldn't be able to commit suicide if it's done right.
Well, it sounds like these people weren't in there. She said they were in an administrative section, segregation, for a 30-day or 10-day period, whatever it was.
Yeah, that makes it different.
Bit different.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can bring everybody into prison and assume that they might commit suicide and put everybody in that room when they're a room like that when they're admitted. That would be one way possibly to guarantee no one would ever commit suicide in prison. But she didn't seem to think the building was as big an issue as I think it is.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of take her word for that, because I always said this about radio stations. You can broadcast from a cave, but it's nice to have nice surroundings.
Well, it's nice to have nice surroundings.
And you do a better job because you have nice surroundings.
But where you broadcast isn't as important as what you broadcast with.
Exactly.
And if you don't have the right equipment, the right microphones, the right transmitter, all that other stuff, it doesn't matter.
In a prison, it's the right things in place and people following the rules.
You're missing my point. There are facilities today that are far different than they were, that are designed specifically for prisons, that have taken into consideration your concerns, Kimberly's concerns, and other people's concerns about how inmates should be housed for their own safety and for the public's safety. I would submit to you that a prison built as long ago as ours was doesn't meet those standards.
I would definitely think you're right. I think we have a couple of...
We have this one. It says, I was on suicide watch. It was hell. I was in an 8-man cell with no items but a turtle smock. I had no intention of killing myself. I've seen the way these inmates are treated. Ask about the chair. Also, the jail was severely understaffed that night of the suicide. Warden Johnson and Commander Wary have a great depth of power, and they will never give it up. The jail system for Northumberland County needs a complete overhaul. The prison board is disgustingly inefficient. The jail should be condemned. It is too old and dilapidated without running hot water. There are human beings in there. It's not a warehouse for evil people.
I agree with you. I've never been under those circumstances, Ryder, but I agree with you.
Well, yeah, I can agree with what he's saying. I've been taken off the screen, so I can't comment on it. I got to get it back. He was put on suicide watch but had no intention of killing himself. Who makes that decision?
I think they have to make the decision and be very conservative about it. Somebody on drugs, by the way, and I'm not saying the writer was, but somebody on drugs right away probably should be on suicide watch because they're withdrawing.
But here's what gets me. I had a senior citizen wellness exam at my doctor's a while back, where they're asking me all these questions, and one of them, have you felt depressed today? Do you feel like you might do yourself harm? Well, if I do, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm thinking about doing myself harm today.
You might. You might.
Well, if I am, then I would just say, I would go in there in the first place. If I was going to admit to it, I would go in and say, listen, I'm having suicidal thoughts or tendencies. I need some help. But I wouldn't count on asking someone if they're planning on committing suicide.
Well, that's a good point.
And depending on whether or not they are. I mean, it seems to me that if a prisoner is put in and they have any question at all, any possible inclination that they ought to talk to that psychiatrist by Skype that she mentioned. I wasn't aware they did that. What did she call that? Teledoc or
Teledoc, yeah.
Teledoc.
I like that.
Yeah, there's there's a lot of that going on these days where there are doctors at central locations and Skype and you can talk back and forth. But somebody should check to see what their mental health is. I mean, if I were arrested, I probably would be a little depressed just to begin with.
I would think.
Whether or not I would be suicidal, though, is another issue.
Well, most people, I think, even if arrested, are not suicidal. They want, the need to keep living is very strong, unless you have severe depression. And that can happen, and oftentimes crimes are committed by people who have severe depression.
What is the chair?
I don't know. Let's ask about the chair. Does anybody know about the chair? And 8 people in a room. Now, that's not what,
right.
Actually...
Let me read that again. I was on Suicide Watch. It was hell. I was in an 8-man cell with no items but a turtle smock. I had no intention of killing myself. Suicide Watch was in an 8-man cell?
Yeah, that doesn't
sound right. I'm not certain I understand that. I've seen the way these inmates are treated. Ask about the chair. Also, the jail was severely understaffed the night of the suicide. Well, you have so many people that work there, and if they're on duty and they call in sick or something happens, no administrator can solve that problem very easily.
No, not easily. But a good administrator can solve that problem, and it might mean that they have to go to the county commissioners and say, look, we need to have some people to hold down the job when people are on vacation.
Forgive me, but
or sick.
How does that work out for them? Look at the fight the district attorney has had over trying to get another assistant district attorney.
I said should be able to go to the
commissioners.
Well,
I think that was Kimberly's point, that you should at least go on record as having asked for it.
Yes.
That way if something happens down the line, the pig is not on your back, as they used to say. It's on someone else's. I told you what I needed. You told me I couldn't have it. Therefore, it's your responsibility.
A pig on your back. That's a dog's breakfast.
My program director at Greensburg, when I was running the stations out there, used to say, well, the pig's on your back now.
Never heard that one. That's quite clever.
That's what a Barry Bankerism. We'll take a break, and we'll be back with more of On the Mark. We invite your calls and participation, 1-800-795-9565, or email us at onthemark@wkok.com.
Here's a bright idea. Why not use light to carry billions of bits of data per second, making network connections hundreds of times faster and much more reliable? That's just what Penn Teledata's fiber optic network does. And we've invested in over 9,000 miles throughout our communities, connecting schools, banks, healthcare networks, and even wireless towers that enable your smartphone to be, well, smart. Know what else is smart? Connecting your business to our fiber network. See the light with Penn Teledata, your recommended source of fiber.
Would you trust a blocked artery to a plumber? Then why trust the health of your network to outdated technology? Connect at the speed of light with Penn Teledata's state-of-the-art true fiber optic network, offering the smartest, most reliable data connections to keep operations running stronger than ever before. That's why more doctors and business professionals trust their company to Penn Teledata. When choosing a provider, get a second opinion. You'll be glad you did. Penn Teledata, your recommended source of fiber.
Tom Wolf ran millions in TV ads, but Wolf never mentioned the fact that he used to be Pennsylvania's revenue secretary. That's a fancy way of saying the state's top tax collector. You name it, Wolf tried to raise taxes on it. Like the state sales tax, Wolf lobbied for a dramatic increase that would have terribly hurt our small businesses and killed jobs. And here's Wolf talking about a new oil tax he wanted that would have hurt Pennsylvania's seniors extra hard.
It's a new tax, and it's the first time that certainly we've done this in Pennsylvania.
And here's millionaire Wolf talking about a new electric and garbage tax he wanted.
A portion of both of those taxes would be passed on to the homeowner.
And once a tax raiser, always a tax raiser. Just recently on KDKA-TV, Wolf said as governor, he wants a massive new energy tax and will raise the personal income tax on many hardworking Pennsylvania families. Tom Wolf. He never mentioned his time in Harrisburg trying to raise our taxes. What else is he hiding?
Paid for by Tom Corbett for governor.
You know you're not supposed to drink and drive. You know you shouldn't talk on the phone, and worse yet, text and drive. But for some reason, you still do it. Are you impressing your friends? Maybe you just think you're being cool. But if you do get into a deadly accident, you impress no one when you're dead. Say no to distracted driving. Bet you your family and friends will think you're cool.
This message brought to you by the stations of Sunbury Broadcasting Corporation, including News Radio 1070 WKOK and Sealands Grove Ford, proud supporters of Susquehanna Smart Drive.
Here it is Thursday, and baseball isn't playing again tonight. That's because that's what they negotiated with the union. Well, baseball needs to correct a couple things, subtle things, but we'll talk about that today. 3 to 5 News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Far from Folsom Prison, that's where I want to stay.
Well, closing the door on Than, we put him in solitary confinement. We're back with On the Mark. I'm Joe McGranahan along with Than Mitchell. Our toll-free hotline number, 1-800-795-9565, or email us at onthemark@wkok.com. We thank our lovely sponsors, the Sunbury Motor Company, our Groninger Insurance toll-free hotline sponsor, and our nice folks at Lenape Solar sponsoring our email in basket.
And 1-800-795-9565.
Well, you didn't let me finish. You
is
may
the number.
View us on the web. Our webcam is up and running, and there are thousands who are watching right as we speak. And then don't forget our archive. If you want to hear what someone said on the show later, it's available to you anytime at WKOK.com.
You can also find the video archive by clicking the YouTube link on the Mark at WKOK.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Well, now let me say, since I rudely interrupted you, and you rudely interrupted me, and I rudely interrupted you, and then
Kevin rudely interrupted both of us.
1-800-795-9565. That is the number, and On the Mark at WKOK.com is the email address.
We don't know what the chair is, but we'll see if our next caller, Paul, can be of any help. Good morning, Paul. You're on the Mark.
Hi, Paul.
Good morning, gang. I got a question. I think you guys can give me an answer to it, and that is, what is the purpose of a prison, and does it serve its purpose to its community?
Well, I think the purpose of a prison is to protect society from some people, to possibly punish people who need to be shown that they can't live the way they do. And the advantage to society is exactly that, kind of regulating how people act.
Well, Dan, if that is the case, then it's kind of hard to figure out why we don't have more people that stay in prison. Because if prison is supposed to be a means of rehabilitating people to put them back out into society, then it would serve its purpose. But if we are going to put people into prisons because they violated a mandated statement, which would be law, and punish them as a means of rehabilitation, then we're back to where we should put them out there in these humiliation posts and let people see them. That would be enough punishment, because now they have to go out and face these people.
Well, if you remember the late Judge Peter Creel, he actually did propose bringing the stocks back and putting them out in Cameron Park in downtown Sunbury.
Fortunately, that did not happen.
He also had another idea I thought was pretty good. He called it the whiff of the possible. Do you remember that?
I do remember the
phrase. Where he put people in jail for 10 minutes or 5 or 10 minutes just to see how they, so they could see what it would be like if they stayed there for a longer period of time.
But thank you, Paul, very much.
Thank you. We appreciate your call and your comment this morning. Dan from Sunbury, you're on the Mark.
Hi, Dan.
Hi. How you doing today?
Very well. How about you?
Oh, well, I'm hanging in there. Right now I'm stuck behind a line painting truck going down the road moving about 10 miles an hour.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, even then, be careful.
Yes, that's right. Anyway, the reason I called is, again, about the prison, and the gentleman who called and was saying about, and I have no idea what the chair is either. I've never been inside a prison as an inmate, okay? I've taken a tour from time to time. But when he talks about the deplorable conditions and that sort of thing, I mean, I understand where you need to, provide basic human needs and that sort of thing. But my comment to, the deplorable conditions and that sort of thing, and it was horrible, well, then don't do anything that's going to land you in prison. If it's so bad, then behave yourself.
Well, people that land in prison, Dan, oftentimes are not necessarily, they may be innocent, and they should be taken care of humanely, particularly until they're adjudicated.
I don't think Dan was done with his thought. Were you done with your thought?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would agree with that. The innocent until proven guilty. So yeah, I can agree with that. But once if they are found guilty, okay, after they've gone through the process and they're found guilty and end up in prison for whatever reason, then that point in my opinion would be, well, then shame on you. Kind of like live with it. You did it. You were guilty. So,
well, there was an old television show.
It's not supposed to be a country club.
There was a television show named Beretta, if you remember it, and their big line was, "Don't do the time or crime if you can't do the time."
Yes, I do remember that.
And it's difficult to say because, ideally, in a perfect world, in Marktopia, if we could go there for a moment, all prisons would be focused on reforming those who are sent in by providing them programs, education, anything they needed to bring them back into a useful society. But in a county jail, that isn't going to happen. The county doesn't have the means or the ability to set up vast rehabilitation programs. Basically, a county jail to me is a place where you do put somebody for punishment. You did something wrong. The punishment is X number of months in jail or X number of years, and so here you'll be until then. But, a lot of these, sometimes county inmates ask to be sent to state prisons where they can get more help.
Right.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Okay, thanks for calling.
And we have
Good luck with your line painting.
we have an email here. Although they should have basic services and necessities, it shouldn't be a retirement community vacation home. Well, I definitely agree with it shouldn't be a retirement vacation home. Let me tell you that if ever you have your freedom taken away, you ain't on vacation.
Well, I can't imagine being locked in a room and having my mobility and myself restricted. I would find that terribly unsettling.
And
so that's one of the reasons why I don't commit crimes and why I don't go to jail.
Actually, I don't commit crimes and don't go to jail because I try to be an honest person, because I think that's how we are best socially, and so do you.
Well,
Joe.
now, do you believe that is prison a deterrent? If there was no prison, do you think you might commit a crime?
No, absolutely not.
So
I might commit a crime, but it would be accidental.
So you don't believe punishment isn't a deterrent in your view?
Punishment stops people from doing what they're doing, and by the way, jails are not for punishment; they're as punishment. You're supposed to be able to be treated humanitarianly in prison. You should be treated well. You don't have to have any special things. I heard yesterday about the people who have TV and time off and easy chairs. Well, I just found out by talking to somebody who deals with prisons that you pay for your TV, and it's a little tiny thing, and you pay twice what it's worth. And you have to rent it every month, which I suppose is a cable fee. And there's lots of expenses entailed in making your lot better in prison. It's not as though you go in, play checkers, and watch TV.
Well, somebody has to put money in your commissary account for you to get all these things.
Or you can also work and earn money, like 42 cents an hour doing this, or 18 cents an hour doing that.
Well, I guess you can debate all day whether those things are good or bad. I think what's prompted this discussion was the condition and the maintenance and running of our county jail in Northumberland County.
According to Kimberly, running the county jail was the big problem.
I'm more concerned, to be honest with you, about them following the procedures. I mean, whatever they are, if there are procedures in the institution that are designed for officer safety and inmate safety, they should be followed without exception. If they have been decided upon and it's been agreed that these are the policies we're going to follow, somebody's feet should be held to the fire to make sure that they are followed, and if they aren't, someone has to be held accountable.
I would like to perhaps have the opportunity, and I'm sure we won't, to talk with Warden Johnson on the Mark, because I'm sure his view of what's happening is a lot different from what we are seeing, because he's the poor guy on the...
Well, we're not just talking about him. I mean, we should make it clear that when we discuss something like this, the people are always invited either to call in or come in and participate in the program.
But he's paid, and he is doing a job or not doing a job, and to find out what he thinks, realizing he may not get the money he needs to do what he must do.
All right, we have to take a quick break on the Mark, and then we'll be back. We have a phone call pending. We'll take that as soon as we come back right after these messages.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
For more than 3 years now, Radio PA and PAMatters.com have brought you exclusive monthly conversations with Governor Tom Corbett. It's your chance to have the Governor of Pennsylvania answer your questions and comments on the issues affecting you.
The state has had a very difficult time as a legislature to come up with the resolve to deal with this head on. I said when I ran the first time, I'm going to make the tough decisions, and that's what people want you to make.
Let us answer your question on our next Ask the Governor program. Go to PAMatters.com today and click on the Ask the Governor link at the top of the page.
Important pieces of legislation that play into the budget, not the least of which is the pension issue.
PAMatters.com is also home to exclusive video clips from Ask the Governor, a show honored as Best Public Affairs and Best Talk Show by the Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasters and the PA Associated Press Broadcasters Association.
I'm Governor Tom Corbett. Please join me on Radio PA and PAMatters.com for a discussion on the issues facing our Commonwealth. Submit your questions or comment today.
Ask the Governor on PAMatters.com.
They just had one. Now they're having one again. Community Aid in Selinsgrove is having another huge sale. It's the Community Aid 8 Days of Summer Savings. The entire store is on sale now right through the 20th. Everything, including brand name clothing, household items, and more, is a full 50% off. But it's for 8 days only, so don't put it off. Once it's over, it's over. Plan your trip now. The Community Aid's biggest and longest sale ever. The Community Aid 8 Days of Summer Savings. Now through the 20th at 1070 Susquehanna Trail, Selinsgrove. Neighbors helping neighbors.
Welcome back to On the Mark. I'm Joe McGranahan with Sam Mitchell, and on the line and on the mark is Tony from Shamokin. Good morning, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Good morning. When I heard that attorney that was on say most of her clients are over in the prison, I got made a mental note. Boy, don't hire her.
Well, wait a minute now. She's a defense attorney, and every prisoner deserves an attorney.
Right. They're not in there because she's their attorney. They're in there because they were accused of a crime and she's defending them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a high calling to be a defense attorney, Tony.
Well, when a prisoner files a lawsuit, who pays for that?
Taxpayers?
After they're in the prison, after they're incarcerated, and they file a lawsuit against the prison, the warden, and whoever.
I think
pays for that lawsuit?
they do. They have to file it. They have to pay to have it filed. Unless there's probably some legal organizations that help prisoners.
Oh yeah, there are.
I would suspect that one of those might have a hand in it, but it depends on. I would think it depends on the circumstances and the nature of the suit.
Well, it isn't the government then paying for their legal defense.
I don't believe so.
I do believe so, but we don't know that.
Well, perhaps indirectly, but I don't think they directly pay for it. In other words,
I know like public defenders and that. Yeah, they're paid for by the government.
Right.
But if the prison loses, and so often it might, if the prison loses, it's taxpayer money that goes out through insurance companies and all that sort of thing.
No argument there.
Okay, I was just curious who paid for these lawsuits, because you see them all the time in prison, not only here, everywhere, federal, state, local.
We might be able to get an answer for that for you, if not today, soon, because that is interesting. Who does pay for the lawsuit? I would think since the prisoner is under the auspices of the prison, that it might be the county that has to pay for it, but that may not be true.
There was one in the news recently. The gentleman who was shot by the acting Sunbury police chief had a suit against the county from a prior incarceration, claiming he was beaten in jail, and I think that suit's going forward. I don't know who the attorney is on that, and I don't know the circumstances of it, but if we find that out, we might be able to give you an answer to your question.
And it does seem a little silly if the government is paying for, say, the county the county's paying to sue themselves.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, but it is our nation of laws, and as Joe loves to point out, and I agree, we are a nation of laws, not men.
Right.
Or women.
All laws should be applied, right?
Well, that's hopefully that's the case.
No,
if you don't like them, change them.
Including immigration laws. Okay, have a nice day.
You too. Take care. Well, we have a few minutes left in the program. This is where Mark says speedy dialers only. I don't know what that has to do with anything. How fast you dial has nothing to do with whether we actually have time to get you on the air. But let's go back a minute. We've kind of talked about the prison thing. Oh, we have an email that I didn't get to. Let me get to that. Well, here, no name, please. I worked in a federal penitentiary, and cameras are in operation every day. Referring to the discussion about cameras in the Northumberland County Jail, I'd like to make a few comments. If staff are turning over their duties of checking on possible suicidal inmates to another inmate, and that action is against written policy regarding Suicide Watch, such action should be visible on camera. The cameras in a federal penitentiary watch staff as well as inmates. Watching staff not only ensures they are not lazy or neglecting their duties, the cameras serve as a rather valuable aspect in the event of an emergency if the incident is on camera, as it may protect the integrity of the staff member demonstrating he or she performed their duties according to the written rules or posted orders for that area. With that in mind, if duties are being given to inmates that are to be performed by staff only, this should be grounds for disciplinary action in a lawsuit by an inmate. The fact the incident is on tape, it may save the staff and facility by demonstrating they have followed policy handling procedures, plus showing the staff did not do unnecessary restraining as charged by the inmate. Working in a county jail is a stepping stone for many young men qualifying for a federal position in a penitentiary. A certain amount of documented service to the county jail meets the federal qualification standard to become a correctional officer. The pay in the county jail for a correctional officer certainly does not match the responsibilities these people have every day. After all, they meet the inmate right from the incident they did on the street until they are released. Some come in drunk, some are under the influence of drugs, as well as some as extremely dangerous to anyone. Of course, working there for the qualifications to apply, it's hard to get this, we're running out of space on the, here we go. Of course, working there for the qualifications to apply to a much better position makes sense. I think the payoff for the county officer should also be increased, which would help hiring better people who respect their positions no matter what.
Now that's interesting. So it is a stepping stone job, so doing a good job would be a prerequisite to making it to be a guard at a Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary, for instance.
One of our earlier writers, email writers, writes back, nurses make that decision, I guess, with respect to whether or not they meet the psychiatrist. If you tell the truth, like you have ever thought of suicide, you are depressed, to those questions. I was there 3 weeks without a phone call or visits. It's a restraining chair for unruly inmates. Looked cruel and unusual to me, gagged and bound for their safety. Okay, well, it's a restraining chair.
Yeah, and I would, if it's only Suicide Watch, I don't understand that at all. If it's a suicide attempt, I think I do understand it. Joe, it's been a pleasure working with you.
I'm going to leave you my papers. You and Ben may want to discuss the urinary policy of the waterworks people.
Thank you. I will keep it right here because I think that is quite ironic.
But it
is a pleasure working with you this week.
Oh, it's fun to work with you. I'm sorry I can't be here with you tomorrow, but I'm headed to the State Mayor's Conference in Harrisburg, where we are working on trying to make municipal police have radar available for municipal police. As you know, Pennsylvania is the only state in the union that prohibits that use by municipal police officers.
Chronic speeders are not going to like what you're talking about.
Well, it's a matter of safety. It's a safety for the officer and safety for the public.
I almost seem it's more, I would think it's more important to have those items in a small community where there's a school where you should be going 25 miles an hour, not 55, than out on the highway where the speed limit is 65 and you're going 90. Yeah, it's much more important in town.
Interesting point. Tomorrow it'll be Ben Reichley and Than Mitchell, and on Monday Mark Lawrence will be back from his undeserved vacation, but we gave him to him nevertheless. And on Monday it'll be Ben and Mark.
Ben and Mark.
And I'll be here on Tuesday, and we'll be back to regular schedule next week. You'll be in on Wednesday, right?
Yep. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks you all very much for listening. This is WKOK Radio Sunbury. You've been listening to On the Mark.